Hello everyone, I'm ChillQuest, and as always, after finishing a run, I'm bringing you a new guide for anyone who wants to experience a similar playstyle or use it as inspiration for their own character. Today we'll be taking a look at Derwin, the Shadow Hunter. This build uses a single dagger as its primary weapon, while the sling serves as a supporting tool. Combined with several synergistic abilities, it creates a very unique playstyle that we'll explore in detail later in the guide. The goal of this build was to create a true hunter, a character focused on stealth, traps, and controlling fights from the shadows. Whenever possible, we avoid direct confrontations, prepare the battlefield, carefully choose our targets, and use the power of our daggers to eliminate enemies quickly and efficiently.
Once stealth is broken and enemies become aware of our presence, the sling takes over. It allows us to stay mobile, wear enemies down from a distance, and control the pace of combat until another opportunity appears to close the gap and finish the job with our daggers. Why this build, and why Dirwin? When I started this run, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted to create. A hunter capable of surviving in the wilderness, tracking targets, setting up ambushes, and gaining every possible advantage before engaging in combat. Derwin was the obvious choice. Not only does he perfectly fit the fantasy of an experienced ranger and hunter, but he also possesses some of the strongest passives available for this type of playstyle. The most important one is Ranger's Grit. This passive grants several benefits that perfectly support a build focused on exploration and survival. First, it provides access to Make a Halt, an excellent tool for long expeditions. On top of that, every 3 points invested into the survival tree grant an additional skill point. Finally, one of the more recent additions rewards completing different types of caves, mines, dens, and hunting grounds with extra attribute point. All of these advantages made Derwin the perfect foundation for this build. Now let's talk about the attributes behind this build. Our 2 primary attributes will be perception and agility. From the beginning of the game all the way to the end of the run, these will be the most important stats for the Shadow Hunter. Perception will be our main offensive attribute. Accuracy and critical chance are the primary reasons for investing in it, since both our daggers and sling rely heavily on landing attacks consistently. On top of that, perception also provides useful bonuses such as armor penetration and increased effective range for the sling, both of which fit perfectly with the playstyle of this build. On the other hand, agility will be our main defensive attribute. It increases both evasion and counter chance, 2 essential tools for surviving once enemies manage to close the distance. As we'll see later, several key abilities also scale with these attributes, making every point invested even more valuable. As for progression, during the early game, we'll focus on developing perception and agility equally until reaching roughly 15 points in each attribute. At this stage, we need our attacks to be reliable, but we also require the extra evasion from agility since we don't yet have access to all the mobility and defensive tools that will come later. Once we reach the mid-game, perception becomes the priority. We'll raise it to 20 points to make our sling as accurate as possible while significantly increasing our critical strike frequency. During this stage, we'll also start investing in vitality, bringing it up to 15 points as several of our survival tools will begin benefiting from it. Finally, in the late game,
Our main focus shifts to agility, raising it to 25 points. By this point, our offensive power is already more than sufficient, so the priority becomes strengthening our defenses. Enemies in the later stages of the game can close the gap very quickly through dashes, rushes, and other mobility skills, making evasion and counterattacks increasingly important. The remaining attribute points will be invested back into perception, turning Derwin into an exceptionally accurate and lethal hunter, capable of punishing enemy mistakes both at range and in melee combat.
Now, let's take a look at the skill trees used in this build. Rather than explaining every single ability one by one, I'll focus on the key talents and the most important mechanics each tree brings to the Shadow Hunter. Let's start with the Daggers skill tree, our primary weapon and the heart of this build. More than any other tree, Daggers define the identity of the Shadow Hunter. The confusion effect applied by traps and the unaware state triggered when attacking unsuspecting enemies both directly enhance the effectiveness of our daggers, making them a perfect fit for the stealth-focused playstyle we're aiming for. Another key aspect of this tree is that it constantly rewards aggressive and efficient combat. As you land attacks, your character gradually builds momentum and becomes stronger throughout the fight. Successful skill attacks help reduce the cooldowns of your abilities, allowing you to use your most powerful tools more frequently. Critical strikes grant additional evasion, making you harder to hit, while normal attacks increase your counter chance, improving your ability to punish enemies that manage to get close. At the same time, the build applies bleeding consistently while draining energy from enemies through critical strikes. This creates increasing pressure as the fight goes on, forcing opponents to operate with fewer resources while your character continues to gain momentum. Now let's move on to the Sling, our support weapon, and one of the most important pieces that make this playstyle work. Among all ranged weapons, the Sling is probably the one that best complements the Shadow Hunter fantasy. It offers excellent accuracy at short and medium range without requiring us to spend turns aiming constantly, which fits perfectly with the fast and dynamic pace we're looking for. In addition, ranged weapons provide something equally important from the very beginning of the game: mobility. They allow us to reposition more easily, and most importantly, switch back to our primary weapon without spending an additional turn. As we progress into the late game, the Sling also gains new crowd control tools. We'll gain access to abilities capable of applying daze and stun, allowing us to further limit our enemies' options and create safe opportunities to close the distance and re-engage with our daggers. Finally, the tree also includes several very interesting passives for this playstyle. Some gradually weaken enemies with every successful shot, while others compensate for missed shots by granting additional accuracy for future attacks. All of this turns the Sling into much more than a simple secondary weapon. It is the tool that allows us to control distance, maintain the initiative, and prepare the perfect moment for our daggers to go back to work. With the weapon trees covered, let's move on to the utility trees, starting with athletics. If I had to define athletics in a single word, it would be mobility. This tree is the defensive and mobility backbone of the build. It provides a large amount of evasion, access to dash, and most importantly, it improves nearly all of our charge abilities. Through athletics, our charge skills cost less energy, can be used more frequently, and gain additional range. For a build that relies on controlling distance and choosing when and where to fight, these bonuses are incredibly valuable. Thanks to these tools, the Shadow Hunter becomes extremely difficult to catch. If you manage your mobility correctly, you'll constantly be repositioning around the battlefield, avoiding dangerous situations and forcing enemies to waste turns trying to reach you. Now let's move on to Warfare, the offensive backbone of this build. Unlike the previous trees, Warfare is focused almost entirely on increasing our damage consistency and offensive reliability. Its main purpose is to improve both accuracy and critical chance, allowing our attacks to land even under difficult conditions such as darkness penalties. This is especially important for a build that alternates between Daggers and Sling, since both weapons benefit heavily from consistent hit rates and critical scaling. Another key aspect of this tree is the synergy with single-weapon combat. The ability Right on Target is essential for this build, as it significantly improves the efficiency of using a single dagger without relying on a shield or secondary melee weapon. This directly supports our intended playstyle, where we prioritize speed, precision, and mobility over defensive equipment setups. Finally, we have Survival, the skill tree that allows us to focus on exploration, the sustained use of abilities with reduced fatigue penalties while vigor is active, healing injuries, and restoring damaged body parts. In general, everything related to survival and the ability to endure long hunting expeditions. But the most important part of this tree is a passive called Pathfinder. This ability allows us to identify enemy positions when inspecting an area, which is perfect for planning encounters before they begin and executing ambushes much more efficiently. Now that we've gone over each skill tree separately, let's look at some of the most important synergies between them. The most significant one is the interaction between Daggers and the Sling. We start with Distracting Shot, a mobility skill that, in addition to dealing damage on hit, grants us an evasion boost and reduces our ability cooldowns. At first glance, it might seem strange to value evasion on a ranged weapon, but this is where the synergy comes in. It works as a perfect gap closer. When combined with the passives Dexterity and Quick Hands, this interaction becomes even stronger. With Distracting Shot, we close the distance to the enemy while benefiting from the evasion buff. Then, thanks to Dexterity, we can switch to our Daggers without spending a turn, and with Quick Hands, we gain additional bonuses to critical chance and counter chance. The result is an extremely fluid sequence. The core idea of this build is always to finish enemies with Daggers whenever possible. This is what allows us to trigger the free aimed shot effect when switching back to the Sling after a kill, maintaining momentum and efficiency throughout the fight. The full sequence usually starts even before direct combat begins. Our first tools are Stealth and Traps, which allow us to set up the battlefield, choose our targets, and start fights on our own terms. From there, we look to secure the first kill with Daggers. This not only removes an enemy quickly, but also enables the transition back into the Sling with a fully prepared follow-up shot, essentially gaining maximum accuracy without spending a turn aiming again. After that, the Sling provides additional tools such as gap closing, consistent accuracy, and the ability to apply Daze to enemies, further disrupting their response. At the same time, we benefit from all the buffs previously mentioned, stacking offensive and defensive advancers. As for gear, the choice is fairly straightforward. We focus on a setup that fully enhances our playstyle. First, we use light armor, prioritizing stats such as dodge, counter chance, accuracy, increased critical chance, and critical efficiency. All of these reinforcing both our offensive and defensive capabilities. For daggers, we aim for the most offensive option possible, prioritizing weapons that scale well with critical hits and bleed effects. However, critical damage remains the top priority as it has the greatest impact on our ability to eliminate targets quickly. For the sling, the choice is quite clear. We use the one with the lowest accuracy penalty. Since we don't rely on aim mechanics, we need a sling that maximizes hit consistency. Finally, jewelry focuses on accuracy and cooldown reduction, two key stats that improve both the reliability of our attacks and the frequency at which we can use our most important abilities.
In general terms, the progression of this build should always be focused on daggers. Sling skills are chosen purely as support, so resource priority should reflect that. Gold and upgrades should first be invested into daggers and melee-oriented equipment. The sling can safely remain a secondary priority. As for gameplay style, it is essential to rely on stealth and traps as the foundation of every encounter. In particular, caltrops are a very efficient tool due to their low cost and strong utility for setting up ambushes. Bear traps are also a great option, although they are best reserved for tougher enemies or more dangerous situations, such as boss fights. Stealth usage also requires some planning. If enemies are not already alerted by the shout, getting too close can reveal your position. Because of this, the best approach is to create controlled distractions, throwing an object, using the sling from mid-range, or even breaking environmental objects while hidden behind cover. And that's everything for this build. I hope you enjoyed it, or got some ideas for your next one. I had a lot of fun playing it, and I was honestly surprised by how untouchable it can feel when everything is executed properly. It's extremely satisfying to jump in and out of combat, applying constant pressure, choosing when to engage and when to disengage, and controlling every fight on your own terms. In the end, it all comes down to you, learning when to use mobility skills as gap closers, when to disengage and reset fights, how to properly use stealth, and how to get the most out of your traps. If you try the build, feel free to leave a comment telling me how it went. I want to know how efficiently you managed to hunt down your enemies. And that's it for the guide. See you in the next one.